Hello YouTube, I'm back again with another video. I'm going to be showcasing you a deck profile. I finally managed to get an account on the site because I was aware of the name and what I can actually do my deck profile when taking the time to do my research and figuring how it would be easier to showcase guys and give you a better display rather than recording my phone because my phone does have issues and I can't keep the amount of space because considering it doesn't have that much bytes on it. So here, this will be more convenient, and I'll be honest with you guys, I do own these cards in real life. I do have actually physical copies of them. So the reason why I'm doing so, they'll be a lot more convenient when I explain the cards that are in there so that you have a better display and that you notice what's in the deck, what that needs to be utilized. So I'll be able to tell you the strategy. So moving forward, let's start off with Vexing Devil. I had someone who had no regard for this card, and I managed to get it for a little cheaper. I don't know if it's how much it's fluctuating, if it's going up or down, but this card is really strong going first. Because I played it against one of my family members, they had a fear whenever this card was on the field, they would just immediately sacrifice, even though it would cost them 4. But there were times that even though when they're on edge and then they had no creatures to defend and they had at least around 4 life or less, they had no choice but to keep them on the field. So we're gonna go for the gods afterwards. Let's start off with Falmar Knight. The reason why I'm playing max copies of this card because of the fact it allows me to draw 1 card. On top of that, it has Death Touch, so the draw effect is only when it has an instant ability with Adventure that only activates while it's in your hand. So if you have the mana cost to actually pay, you draw a card, you lose 1 life, then you exile this card. And the best part is while it's exiled, you may cast it from your exile area to the creature zone. And for other weak monsters, I wouldn't say weak, but our big beaters, this is a beatdown deck, so we're going to go straight for 4 copies of Gifted Aetherborn. Not much to explain. I like the fact that it's a vampire, and if it's a theme of my strategy, it has the fact that it's a vampire, like I mentioned before, has Death Touch, and lifelink. You can't really go wrong with this card. There's really nothing bad to say about this card. So for those who are saying the only people I would complain is most likely its power and toughness, but it doesn't matter if it has the least amount, but it's still effective. And we're gonna let's go for Bone Crusher Giant. We're gonna go for the other cards later. This card is very useful because, like I said before, this is a beatdown deck. We don't care about the effect while it's on field, but like I said, it has the similar ability to Falmar Knight. It has the instant adventure with the ability Stomp, where you can exile it from your hand. It is, like I said, it's an instant. Damage can't be prevented this turn. You deal 2 damage to any target, whether it's a creature, an opponent, but you're most likely going to use your opponent or a creature, depending if the creature is a problem, but most likely your opponent because you want to kill them faster. On top of that, if you see his power and toughness, he has a power of 4 and a toughness of 3, and you can't go wrong with this card because the whole purpose of that deck is kill your opponent as quickly as possible. As we're going to go as another card that if it suits the theme, helps fit the theme, Desecration Demon. I would say he's the heavy beat stick of this deck, the strongest in the main deck. Not only does he have flying, not only is he a demon, although your opponent can sacrifice and they can force a tap it, plus he gains a +1 counter for each, whether it's both power and toughness. The only thing, yes, he is forced. Your opponent can force to tap this card, but it's the fact that not only getting rid of your opponent's creatures, he gets stronger every time, and he has flying. So, because what happens is that, like, if they don't have enough creatures, you can deal more damage after. And I like the idea. I do like the artwork on this card. I feel like he really suits my interest, and that's mainly the reason that, to be real with you guys, Magic Gathering, you can play pretty much almost any deck as long as it's consistent and you have the right mana cost. And we're gonna go straight to our gods. We're playing 1 Scarab God. Considering the price, it wasn't easy, but I would say he's actually very versatile because at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life. So X means depending on the number of zombie controls. He's not a zombie, so Foul Knight would be considered one. So you're plussing if you have, depending on number of zombies you have, if you have, including Foul Knight. And on top of that, you can create a black zombie creature. Pay 2 colors mana, 1 blue, 1 black. Exile target creature from a graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. And what's crazy about, obviously, because it's a god, anytime it dies, returns to the owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. And for our final god, the Scorpion god, I like to have like a theme. Like I said, I like to have some sort of like theme where the cards like basically match together, where you just pretty much mash them in together, and they look really cool when you fight alongside. When they fight alongside, you guys get what I mean. But the reason why I want to play Scorpion God, some people, because they're just playing two, not because of the price. I do like the idea of having a Scorpion God and a Scare God both beside each other on the battlefield. It makes the duo that much more epic. Although his effect may not be more useful, it's not better than Scare God. I can't deny that. But still, you get to draw a card. On top of that, even though a creature with a -1 dies, that's usually how it works. You draw a card, and you can put on any creature, and then if they die, you draw every time. So, but it's not the best effect, that we can all admit that. But it's the fact that he's a god, and you know what gods do. They just keep coming back every time they die. You can't really kill a god. You gotta find ways to get rid of them besides killing them. And for our instance, we're playing Consider for more consistency. Obviously, this deck needs draw power, and the fact that it only costs us 1 blue. You'll notice a lot of pretty much all our instants and sorceries in the main deck only cost 1 color, 1 mana color, and that's it. We don't need to play multicolors. We don't need dual colors. And speaking of 1 color, we're playing Lightning Bolt. Like I said, we just want to kill our opponent as quickly as possible, or possibly get rid of a creature that could be a problem later in the duel. But at the same time, you want to go after your opponent because this card is very lethal, and it opens up for your chance. It opens your chances of a victory being that much quicker. It opens for a quick victory. Opt, same thing. Can some people say Consider's better? I feel like they're the same thing. You still draw a card. It's an instant. Like it's not like you can't really say which is better because the fact they pretty much do the same thing. But people are saying it's like you look at the top card, you can throw it in your graveyard, but with Opt, you just scry one. So I don't see how it's any different. Like, yeah, maybe if you have cards that activate in the graveyard that can challenge your opponent, but the deck doesn't really do that. It's just simply about drawing a lot of cards. That's all it is. We're just playing less mana. We'll go into our lands later. We're just gonna say our final sorcery is just only one sorcery word that we're maxing out Thoughtseize. I feel like you have to max on this card because when you open up really good and you go first and you have at least a swamp on the field or any black color, you lose 2 life, but you get to look at your opponent's hand, you discard that card, and especially if it's a mountain land, it can really change the tide of the duel. And we're going to go straight to our lands, playing 3 Blackleaf Cliffs, because the fact that we're playing a lot of our beaters are red and black creatures that utilize red and black mana, so it's very important. But like I originally was playing 4, but I think 3 is right around because you'd want to break down the other, because that last one may come too late soon. So our other red and black card, we're playing Blood Crypt. As you see here, you have the choice whether you want to pay 2 life. If you don't pay 2 life, it ends up tapped instead. Like I said, we're playing a lot of red and black creatures that utilize a lot of red and black, so it becomes very important. You want to see as quickly as possible. And this deck utilizes a lot of strong creatures, so you definitely do benefit with this deck. And obviously, we've got to include the fetch lands. Let's just go straight to the fetch lands, actually. We're playing a max copy of Bloodstained Mire. I think it's my favorite card because the artwork thing makes you think of something somewhere like Mordor, Lord of the Rings. Just the idea, just the artwork. Pretty much is not too much explain. You pay 1 life, search for Swamp or Mountain card. Similar thing with Polluted Delta. You pay 1 life, but you're searching for either swamp or island. So we're only playing 2 Skunk Turn because we already have enough fetches. We're basically playing 10, so you pretty much pay 1 life, search for either island, mountain. And the cards that you can actually search with the fetch lands are the ones that you see that are basically dual lands that have the same type. Like for example, Watery Grave, it's considered island swamp. So you can pretty much obviously like this card. And I forgot to mention, yeah, Blood Curb can be searched because it's considered Swamp Mount, so you can be able to get it with that effect as well. As well as Watery Grave because it's Island Swamp. Want to bring you guys back, Swamp Mountain, including Steam Vents like you have here. So if they have the land, it has another type where it's considered either Island, Mountain, or any other land that exists in Magic that can be searched with a specific name, then for sure, obviously, the effect with using your effect chance is definitely legit. You pretty much get access to cards. They just have to have the name in order for you to access it. That's really what counts. And the cards I didn't mention are, we are playing a couple of dual lands. Give me a moment. I missed out on one of them. Give me a moment, you guys. Obviously, we're playing Dragon's Call Summon. Just as a one-of, I just want to see how, even though it's not searchable, we do want to play more lands just to make our hand more consistent. We want to increase our mana ramp. So it just goes to show, like, you can't go really wrong with just playing one-ofs with this deck. So, and I want to bring up the other one-ofs that I didn't mention. We got Sulphur Falls. Pretty much the same thing, but like one thing I forgot to mention is that you have to control specific land in order for them to remain untapped. So just be aware when you play them. And give me a moment. We're also including Drowned Catacomb. Like I said, you can't really go wrong with these cards. They are dual lands, and they do benefit you because you have to match with the similar color types that you have in your hand with similar mana, so that this deck becomes more viable, and it makes the deck more validated. If you guys get what I mean by validated, it's so that people can understand what you're doing. You show them the colors and which cards can be utilized, and that you can let them know that what you're doing is perfectly legal, so it doesn't lead to any argument. And I was gonna suggest not to the sideboard, but it's all up to personal preference. We're gonna play 2 Abrade because in case we're dealing with any problematic artifacts. But again, wanting to deal with weaker creatures, which is a problem because sometimes these creatures can utilize draw power, anything that can help benefit the opponent and giving them the upper hand. There's really nothing you can say. You just gotta limit the amount, not to play too many, and just have space for other cards. Speaking of, we're playing Thought Erasure. Basically, it is like a heftier Thoughtseize, but you don't pay 2 life. It does require 1 blue, 1 black, but you just play 2 because you want to see too many of it. I do like the fact that you don't pay 2 life. You still choose an online card, similar effect. Discard that card. We're playing 3 Soul Guide Land. Let's go into the weaker cards first, because I feel like they're the important ones. When this card, and this is a very useful card, like there's really nothing to say that makes the card not useful. Like, if I were to explain right now, already when you pay 1 mana, especially if it enters the battlefield, you exile target card from a graveyard, and on top of that, you can sacrifice this card, exile each opponent's graveyard. You have another option. You can pay 1 other mana, sacrifice this card. By tapping it, you draw a card, which we're playing 3 of because I feel like it is necessary because you don't want to draw into another Soul Calendar because you already made your point. So 3 Engineered Explosives, simply because I do have a token hate relationship, so this will always come in handy. So you don't have to really pay mana to destroy tokens. They usually have 0 mana because they don't really count as cards, but at the same time, they are permanents that are on the field that do exist. So you have the chance to get rid by getting rid of 2 mana sacrifice card, and you already blew up their board that they managed to work hard creating. So this will always come in handy, and also you have ways of affecting your opponent's other permanents, whether they're enchantments and artifacts. And we're just playing 2 Call Against Command. I was playing this main deck, but I feel like my deck is tight. Plus, I want to play cards that have less mana to make my deck more viable, to make it more consistent. Overall, has a really good effect. A lot of the times, if you has like 4, you get to choose out of these. You get to choose 2 out of these 4 options. Whether you return a creature card from your graveyard to hand, you force your opponent, or you force a player to discard a card, destroy a target artifact, or it deals 2 damage to any target. So at most, what I'm most likely going to do, the effects I'm most likely going to use are either return a creature from my graveyard to my hand, destroy a target artifact, or if my opponent is near the end of defeat, or if I'm about to defeat my opponent, I'm either going to deal 2 damage to them or to deal 2 damage to a creature. That may be a problem for me that I'm getting really irritated of, so I just want to get it out of the way so that I won't be hesitant to kill my opponent. And our final side card, we're playing 2 copies, Nickbol's Dragon God, my mistake for my pronunciation. Gains the ability of all planeswalkers on the field. You can't go wrong with this card. It basically is the best planeswalker in my opinion. It's a loyalty ability. You give it 1 loyalty ability. You draw 1 card. Each opponent must exile a card from their hand or permanent they control. You can minus 3 of its loyalty points, loyalty counters, destroy target creature or planeswalker. And if you manage to round up the card this 8, if you manage to round this card's loyalty counters to 8, you can force that card out of the field, and if they don't control a legendary creature or planeswalker, you automatically win the game. Basically Exodia at this point, because I know Yu-Gi-Oh! More than Magic, so in my experience, that's how I would describe it. It's like you're basically winning with Exodia if you have this card on the field. Whether it doesn't matter whether it leaves the field or not, you automatically win. And in itself is reason enough to put it in the side deck or main deck, depending how you utilize it. You just got to be smart with it, and you just got to understand what these cards are capable for you to make the most out of them. But again, hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. May not be the best I explained it, but I was very anxious. I was very eager to do it, so I just hope there wasn't any confusion, that I didn't seem to bore you guys. I didn't seem to get you all worried or concerned or confused again, but I was just trying to get my point out there. Me showing the cards is enough for you to pretty much understand what I have in store for you guys. You have a better understanding. There's not really too much to explain, but I want to be able to put in detail so I can try to express how much I enjoy this deck. And trust me, it is worth it based on my experience. And you can try to figure whether if this is part of your playstyle if you decide to get into Magic, because I'm not only doing Yu-Gi-Oh, but I'm doing this game. This is gonna be my second last trading card game, because with Yu-Gi-Oh can be very quick, but this game you can take your time with your opponent, and then you can actually take the opportunity to enjoy as well, and go pace to pace with your opponent, where at least when you go back and forth there actually is some communication and there is some interaction between you two. But again, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to check for more upcoming content later in the future. Be sure to check your notifications, comment, like, subscribe. Thank you.